Very good afternoon, friends. Over the last 3 years, specifically under the GST regime, we have seen investigations, summons, search and sometimes seizures also being prevalent even for the regular taxpayers who have a history of paying taxes over the last few decades in some cases. We have seen that taxpayers who have never seen an indirect tax investigations have over the last 3 years had 5 to 6 investigations by multiple authorities. Now on 30th of March, in a very welcome move, the CBIC has issued guidelines for discipline to be adhered to while conducting investigations, issuing summons or searches or seizures in some cases. Earlier too, there was an instruction for summons. Now there is an instruction for investigations under GST, especially for taxpayers which a known history of paying their taxes regularly. The biggest grievance of the taxpayers, especially the regular taxpayers, was that multiple agencies were investigating GST cases for the same taxpayer for the same period, sometimes on the same issue or even on another issue. There were by and large 5 agencies which could investigate or inquire a taxpayer under GST. First is the CGST or SGST jurisdiction of the taxpayer. Second is anti-evasion in CGST. Third is DGGI in CGST. Fourth can be state government investigating agency. And fifth can be central DGGI, because DGGI has central and PAN India jurisdiction. This was causing grievance to the taxpayers, as for the same issue again and again. Even we have seen cases that where a particular supplier has been found doing some irregular work or passing on irregular ITC for a particular recipient, the recipient is being investigated by multiple agencies on the same issue of ITC from the same supplier. Now, while these guidelines and instruction, the CBIC has laid down that if such be the case, then it might be seen whether one agency should investigate the same taxpayer, especially for the same period. However, there is also a corollary to this. Now, in case a particular agency finds any irregularity which may have a PAN India impact, for example, if you are a multi-state registered taxpayer and say in the state of Uttar Pradesh, the CGST department finds that there is some irregularity on your valuations. Say for example, UP CGST finds that you are not including freight as a part of the value of the goods, then there might be a case where the UP CGST authorities intimate all other state jurisdictions or intimate DGGI to conduct an inquiry on a PAN India basis. Therefore, multi-state registered taxpayers should be careful on PAN India impact issues. Next, grievance of the taxpayer was that investigations were never being concluded. We have seen cases where investigating authorities have started the investigation back in 2020 December, and till today the investigations are still on. The investigating authorities may feel that since the time barring period under section 74 is still a long way to go, therefore the investigation may take more time. Now this instruction mandates that investigations should normally be closed within 1 year. We all know that show cause notice leads to closure of investigation. Therefore, this instruction lays down that show cause notice should be issued at the earliest and investigations should not be dragged on. Next, and very important issue, that many a times we saw a company which is listed for the last say 10 years was investigated. A company which is now a taxpayer since the last 50 years was being investigated in the same manner where a company which is formed or a taxpayer which has started operations 2 years back was investigated. Sometimes even a managing director of a PSU was issued summons. Sometimes government departments were issued summons by the GST authorities. There were cases where a trade practice was ignored while conducting investigation. For example, commercial credit notes or financial credit notes, which are a common trade practice, have seen galore investigations during GST regime, wherein the allegation of the department is that the recipient of the credit note is providing a service to the issuer of the credit note. This issue is already before the GST Council and the GST Council is deliberating on such issue. There are various such other issues also which are before GST Council, and there are prevalent trade practices across India on such issues. Now, through this instruction, the CBIC has laid down that such taxpayers or such issues should not be normally investigated by the Principal Commissioner's initiation. The Principal Chief Commissioner should intervene and approve in case an investigation or a summon is required for such a taxpayer or such an issue. Also, many a times we are seeing that first out a summon is issued rather than a notice being issued to gather information from the taxpayer. No notice is issued and first up a summon is issued to even gather information like a GSTR 2A versus 3B comparison, to gather information like purchase register, sale register. This guideline or instruction has clearly specified that especially for regular taxpayers, for PSUs, for large corporations, listed companies, multinational companies who are known globally, for them first a notice should be issued to gather the information. In case the taxpayer does not cooperate, then only a summon should be issued or an investigation should be carried on. Sometimes summons or investigating agencies through investigations carry out fishing inquiries. For example, sometimes a requirement is, please explain as to why ITC shall not be considered as irregularly availed. Investigations and summons cannot lead to fishing inquiries. Further, the summons or requirement during summons should be very specific. It should not be vague. The reason for conducting a summons should be very specific on a particular supplier or a particular issue. It should not be to investigate on the entire ITC availed or such other broad criteria. Next, and very important, is that a redressal mechanism has been provided through these guidelines to the taxpayers who are being investigated against. First of all, many of the cases we have seen that inspectors and superintendents issue the summon and deal with the summons. Now, they have very clearly specified that a reasoned approval of the AC and DC is required for initiating investigations or summons against especially regular taxpayers. Next, many of the times such taxpayers feared in approaching the ADC or Joint Commissioner. Now, through these guidelines, they have very specifically said that ADC or JC are the redressal of grievance officers for such taxpayers. If required, that the Principal Commissioner by appointment should also hear the grievance of such taxpayers who are being investigating against or who are being summoned. Therefore, a codified guideline has been laid down through this instruction for taxpayers' grievance redressal. Last, in many of the cases, it is seen that certain formats are issued by the investigating or summoning agencies. In one of our cases, we have seen that the packaging material utilization details are required by a particular investigating agency from a taxpayer. Such formats are to be prepared, if at all, by the investigating agency and not to be submitted by the taxpayers. Therefore, taxpayers should note that provision of data information explanation is the prerogative or the duty of the taxpayers, and analysis has to be done or inquiry has to be conducted by the investigating agency and not by the taxpayers. So friends, detailed guidelines have been issued for inquiries or investigations through this instruction. While these guidelines may not totally ease out such investigating processes, but at least they provide a framework for disciplining the field formations, how to conduct investigations, summons or searches under GST. Taxpayers may take benefit of these instructions while these procedures are carried out. Thank you very much for listening. Please do like, share and subscribe to this channel. Stay tuned. Thank you very much.